Welcome, one and all, to the Magic Music Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Matthew, and in this series, we will be discussing various occult and esoteric practices in music, art, and culture. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the unknown together. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 11. I'm sure most of you have heard by now, but unfortunately, the great Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. He passed away on July 22nd, 2025. I'm still kind of in shock, to be honest with you. His passing hit me pretty hard. He and the crew and everyone, they had set up the Back to the Beginning show with Black Sabbath and a bunch of others as a tribute to Ozzy and his career and what he's done in Black Sabbath and just his life and his legacy. Completely unmatched. I mean, Ozzy was definitely one of a kind. I don't think there's another person like him, to be honest with you. His music has influenced so many individuals in the rock and metal community and beyond, too. He was a public figure. He had the reality show The Osbournes for a while. But man, I mean, the Back to the Beginning show, I think they streamed it on pay-per-view. I saw a couple snippets of it. I watched a few of the performances. Tool performed. Youngblood, I'm not sure if you guys know who that is, but he's kind of like a new up-and-coming artist, hard rock metal genre. He performed a cover of Changes by Black Sabbath, which was incredible. I mean, his vocal range and just it was such an amazing performance. But yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. I know he had Parkinson's disease for a long time, and he had to have, I think, surgery on his back or something. It messed him up pretty bad. But yeah, I just thought in this episode, I would just cover Ozzy's life and his legacy. Yeah, what he has done for the world of music. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'll just kind of give a little blip about his upbringing and stuff. So his full name was John Michael Osbourne. I believe Ozzy was his nickname. He was born December 3rd, 1948 in Birmingham, England. And Birmingham was kind of like a factory town when he was growing up. This was kind of like, right after the war, World War II. So, England was just decimated. And they had to get, everything back up and running. So he, was known for kind of just, he had some kind of odd jobs, like in factories and stuff like that. And he got involved in some petty crimes, unfortunately. But, he didn't grow up, rich or born into a wealthy family. He had to really work for what he wanted and what he believed in. So his nickname is the Prince of Darkness, which I think is awesome. I'm not sure who gave him that nickname. Probably just over time, because of his stage antics and things like that. And obviously he was known for being a founding member and frontman of Black Sabbath, having a successful solo career after he got let go from the band. and also reality TV stardom in the Osbournes with his family, it's hilarious. I've been watching reruns on it. I think they have it on, I forget what channel it is, but it's definitely on one of the free streaming services, so you can go back and watch all the insane, hilarious shit that they would do as a family. It's just like, he was such a character, man. Like, he was just naturally funny. For sure. Just had no idea what the fuck was going on at any given time. And trying to raise, like, kids and stuff and deal with all the pets around the house. It was just a shit show. But that's what reality TV is. I think they were kind of like a pioneer of reality television, to be honest with you. This was back in the early 2000s, and I was like I was young when it came out. I was born in 95, so I was probably like maybe 7 or 8 years old. But I've seen episodes when I was younger, and I was just, this guy's hilarious to go from being this really kind of like scary, like insane stage persona that he had to just being a family man. It was such a contrast, but it showed that, like, he was a real person, super down to earth and super honest. So yeah, his early life, he grew up in a working class family in Aston, Birmingham. He struggled in school due to dyslexia and apparently left at the age of 15. He had brief stints in factory jobs and petty crime, and ultimately he turned to music as an escape from all of that. He said in various interviews that his main influence was the Beatles, which, listening to Sabbath and the solo stuff, you wouldn't really make that connection. At least I never did. But now that I look back, I can kind of see like certain songs, were Beatles-esque or influenced, and he had a quote. I think he said that, when the Beatles came on, it was like, listening to their music, like going to bed and waking up, and the world was in color, seeing the full, like, spectrum of things. Like, it was unlike anything that he probably heard before, and it was so, like, they pushed the boundaries. So yeah, it's a really interesting fact about him. So the Black Sabbath era, the guys were young when they started. So I believe they started in 1968, and then to 1979. And that's when Ozzy got fired from the band for doing too many drugs. He's obviously known for all that stuff, and just going off the rails with it, unfortunately. So yeah, for over 10 years, 11 years to be in Sabbath. So in 1968, Ozzy joined Black Sabbath alongside Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. So Tony Iommi was the guitarist, or is the guitarist, for Black Sabbath. Geezer Butler played bass guitar, and Bill Ward played drums. And they're credited with inventing heavy metal music by, I guess, kind of melding blues rock with dark and occult influenced themes. So instead of like making, run-of-the-mill like pop songs, what set Sabbath apart, at least for me, was the fact that they were tapping into like kind of this darkness that I feel exists within all of us. they kind of pulled back the curtain on, these dark and fucked up things like behind the scenes. Man, I can't even tell you, man. Black Sabbath was just a huge influence on me. I remember the first song I think I heard by them was, believe it was Iron Man. I think that was probably the first song. And they have a ton of like hits, and Iron Man obviously is one of their big ones. But just painting this picture of, this guy that gets like, he helps people and then they turn on him, almost like Frankenstein, that's kind of like he helps people and then he eventually destroys them because he realizes, oh, like these people they're evil, they're not good. But to be able to paint a picture with lyrics and instruments, they did it so well with just being a 4-piece. It still blows my mind. Like, you could still listen to any Sabbath record. It sounds like it was made yesterday. It really does. And it stands up on its own. It doesn't get lost in the static of all these other bands that have been influenced by them, right? Like, no one pushed them to the side. Like, Sabbath is the OG. Like, Sabbath is the one. They are the ones that helped push the genre forward, and they probably had a vision and they just executed it. Probably just seeing all of the factories and the filth and the destruction of the war, that takes a toll on you. And they were in their 20s. They were rebellious. They were trying to get out of that and go somewhere else that was a better future for them. So, I mean, all of Sabbath's albums are pretty iconic. It's hard to even sit here and rank the albums because I don't know. I could sit here all day and just rattle off songs that I like and stuff, but I don't know, man. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, the record they made in 1973, that's probably my favorite one out of the bunch, because just the riffs on that, Killing Yourself to Live, the song Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, where it has that just incredible, really dark, twisted, breakdown at the end, which still, I guess, it still holds up. It's still you listen to that, you're like, oh my God, it's so good. It's so heavy. But man, yeah, I mean, obviously their first album, self-titled Black Sabbath, Paranoid, which features Iron Man, War Pigs, and the song Paranoid, Masters of Reality in 1971. Again, there's just so many. You can just go through all of their discography and just listen to all the songs, and every single one, even the deep cuts, are good too. They had a lot of acoustic songs too, where Tony Iommi was just fiddling around on acoustic guitar. And yeah, their music was just heavier and much darker than anything at the time. I feel the music, that was on the charts back then in the late 60s, early 70s, it was very hey, don't look over here where all this fucked up shit is happening. Look over here. We're going to try to distract you with this really upbeat, kind of bubblegum pop music, and just dance. It's fine. Just dance. Don't don't worry about the wars that are happening and all the fucked up shit. It was all distraction. But Sabbath, they were real, and I think that's why they they're so good is because people sensed like, oh my God, like they're talking about real shit that other people don't want to talk about. They want to bury it. And, Ozzy had a very, very distinct voice. It was really haunting and like almost ghostly, coupled with, I just have to say, like coupled with Tony Iommi's, his riffs and his guitar tone. I think like that combination, and obviously Geezer Butler, they all had something to bring to the table. They all had a specific tone and a quality. And when they all came together, it was just like this perfect blended sonic landscape of just pure darkness and brutality. But it was very optimistic as well. It wasn't like, you would listen to their albums and be like, oh, I'm so depressed. Like, no, it almost like shocked you. Like, oh, whoa, like that fucked me up a little bit. So when I was like, let me see, when I was about 13, that's when I picked up the bass guitar. And I remember sitting there and, thinking to myself like, oh, like, what could I learn on bass? And, Geezer Butler was a huge influence on my playing. Like his style was very like groovy and like open-ended and kind of jazzy, too. Like the first Sabbath record, there were some kind of like jazzy parts on it, which is really cool. How they kind of had a little bit of that background, jazz, blues, funk, and then it kind of coalesced into that style that they're known for. But man, like, I remember hearing War Pigs, like putting headphones on, and I was probably listening through like a laptop or my computer or something at the time when I was 13, trying to learn how to play like War Pigs and NIB, and yeah, just a lot of, and Paranoid, I was part of like a bunch of jam groups back in the day where we would cover like Sabbath songs and metal and other, and rock and that type of genre. So I kind of cut my teeth like on Sabbath back in the day, and that's why, their music means so much to me. I've always bumped Sabbath. Like there's never a time to not like bump Sabbath. I feel like you can be at like someone's birthday party or at the beach or like, on a fucking mountain somewhere. It fits wherever you go. But man, like what stood out to me about like the song War Pigs was not just the instrumentation itself, but like the lyrics. I have never heard anything like it, and I don't think I've ever heard anything like it since. Just, the lines that stuck out to me, man, like obviously, when Ozzy sings like, generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses, immediately paints, and Ozzy's probably a big influence on why I'm into this stuff anyway, like into the occult shit, because he painted this picture for me when I was younger of like, I saw, like you can visualize in your head these military generals sitting in a room talking about how they're gonna fuck people up, and it's like they're using like this sorcery and this dark black magic to like inflict pain, destruction, and death. And it's like that picture was so terrifying, but it like brought you back to this core thing of like, oh, I'm not like that. And I know the difference between good and evil, but just having that image in your head of like, oh my God, like this is like, it already sets you down this path. Like, I mean, I can just read off the lyrics. Yeah, so generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. So like Ozzy was like imbuing like this mysticism into it, comparing these people to magicians almost, of like, okay, we have this power, we have the resources, what are we going to do with it? In the fields, the body's burning as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. It's so like poetic. I mean, it was probably it is for sure an anti-war song. People think, and again, this is why I try on this podcast to like make the distinction between black magic versus white magic, like what's good and what's evil. Like, this is an anti-war song. He's not saying, oh yeah, let's start a war. Like, I don't think anyone really wants that. He's just pointing it out that like this is probably what happens, that a bunch of demented people get together and realize, how can we just exert ourselves over, these individuals? And politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that all to the poor. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns in chess. Wait till their judgment day comes. Again, this still resonates now. You have people that like to start war. They push a button and they go and hide, and they expect other people to fight for them, which it's fucked up. And then this is the one that really, the second verse, like after the guitar solo. Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where their bodies burning. No more war pigs have the power. A hand of God has struck the hour. Day of judgment, God is calling. On their knees, the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for their sins. Satan, laughing, spreads his wings. I remember like listening to this song for the first time, and that just the Satan laughing spreads his wings. Like, my mouth like hit the floor, because like I've never heard anything like that. It wasn't pop music, It was just like this real thing of like, oh my God, like these people are getting what they deserve. Like, they will get what they deserve in time. And me being like 13, I'm like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like, just listening to all this music, and that really stuck with me. Like that image, and it's not evil. It's saying that like, their judgment day is here and they're going to be punished for their crimes. And, it's all that. There's a lot of messed up stuff that's happening right now. I don't want to get really like political on this podcast, but man, I mean, I can draw like similarities to what's happening with Israel and, the Gaza Strip right now, and all the Palestinians that are being slaughtered because they're just different, right? And all of the children that are being starved to death over there, and they're blocking food from getting over there and aid because they just feel like it, they're a powerful state. And again, like I said, everyone has their opinions on this, but I think, general consensus is like, their time will come. Everyone's aware of what's happening. There's more eyes on it now. Like, we're seeing a genocide in like real time. And, I hope it doesn't escalate even further. Like, but again, we just have to hope. But, this will never stop. There will always be insane people in power that love to just, make war just for fun. Like, they have nothing better to do. They have so much money and so much power that then they're bored. They own all the shit that they want. And they're like, what else can I do? Maybe I can like buy people. Maybe I can like just fund these things that happen, these horrific things that happen. But anyway, sorry for the politically charged rant, but we just shouldn't kill fucking humans. Like, I think at the end of the day, we shouldn't kill humans, especially babies and children. So I think that's just a unanimous thing, I think. Ozzy was fired in 1979 due to escalating substance abuse and internal tensions. So they were very popular, like, for the time. I mean, they got like a lot of bad reviews and shit, but in terms of just like, you know, they sold out performances, like they were on the bill with some very, very high profile acts. And yeah, being in a band for 11 years, you know, you don't know what you have till it's gone. And unfortunately, drugs takes a huge toll. I mean, you can look up stories about Ozzy's crazy drug-fueled days. And when he was younger, he really, really struggled with that, unfortunately. And it's sad, but you know, sometimes you need something to like cope with like the fame and the pressure and to help you write a song. So, you know, I really feel for him, but, you know, I'm sure he didn't, you know, want to do it on purpose or wanted to be a bad person on purpose. It happens. All right, so his solo career started in 1980. So he jumped like right into like a solo career, you know, instead of getting depressed or just stopping or whatever. So I think that's really good that he just had the drive and the motivation. I'm sure he was pissed, you know, to be fired. He persevered, and then that's what kind of shot him into stardom, was the solo career. So Randy Rhoads, I think Ozzy finding Randy was like just crucial for Blizzard of Oz. Was iconic. I mean, you have Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, which, you know, talked about Aleister Crowley in the past. Having a song dedicated to him is like, you know, it's pretty cool. He knew about the occult and religious themes and darkness and all this stuff. So it probably just, it tickled his fancy. You know, he was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to write about this stuff. So he was very into like spiritualism and stuff. Like, I don't think he was a very religious person. I'm not too sure, but he did pray or say a prayer before every show that he did. But I don't think he was like a like, I don't know if he went to church at all, but he believed in like the themes of, you know, being a Christian, I guess, and God and Jesus and stuff. Yeah, his other hit albums, I mean, Diary of a Madman in 81, No More Tears, Osmosis, Ordinary Man, you know, the list just goes on and on. Like, everything that he did just turned to gold. You know, it's like he was such an icon, and he just didn't really, honestly, he was just himself. He didn't really have to try. And I think if you're just yourself and you don't force things to happen and you just do things naturally and you're honest, then I think you'll go pretty far. There was a lot of controversy, you know, surrounding him and his public persona. He became infamous for his onstage antics, including, you know, biting the head off a bat, not on purpose. By mistake, he thought it was a toy bat. Had to get, like, rabies shots. But, like, I can't even imagine, like, you know, biting the head off a bat and, like, realizing, like, oh, shit, like, what did I just do? And that was 1982. He was arrested, you know, for public intoxication, and legal battles over song lyrics allegedly inspiring teen suicides. I think that happened with like Judas Priest too. There was a big thing in the 80s where they were trying to go after a lot of these artists, like Twisted Sister, like that said that like, oh, you're forcing these kids to kill themselves. And it's like, well, no, that's not the case. It's just like they're reading too much into the lyrics, I think, like, you know, and they're just not, you know, unfortunately, maybe not mentally well. So I don't really blame the bands too much, because, like, if you ask the bands what the songs are about, it's, like, not about suicide or anything. It could be, like, struggles with suicide, but, like, they're not saying, hey, go out and, like, kill yourself. Like, no. they're just like maybe speaking from experience, or maybe they know someone that did something. So 9 times out of 10, it's not like malicious. A song is a song, and you can imbue whatever you want into it. Sometimes there's a clear message, sometimes there's an underlying message, and you just kind of find what's right for you. And despite the controversies, he has always maintained like a persona, mixing like his dark, twisted theatrics with like self-deprecating humor. And I think that's what, like, he didn't take himself too seriously. I don't know if Ozzy would be, you know, such an icon if he wasn't really like self-deprecating. You know, if he took himself really seriously and be like, I'm the Prince of Darkness, like, worship me. Like, then, I don't know, like, it would just sound, it doesn't seem like real. You know, so imbuing the humor into it, I think, was what made it like more palatable for his fans. In the 2000s, Ozzy starred in The Osbournes, which was, I think, a groundbreaking reality show. So that was with his wife Sharon and his kids Jack and Kelly. And it made him a household name just beyond music. And I think it helped him a lot in his career, just, you know, being silly. Like, this is a day in the life of Ozzy Osbourne, this like crazy musician. He would just, like, you know, mumble things and act and just be confused. It was kind of sad, you know, but he was probably going through all this health crap, and to have it be filmed is a little weird when you think about it. And he had this eccentric personality. His wife, Sharon, was very pivotal in his, you know, solo career, I think, and what happened beyond Black Sabbath. They got married in 1982, and what she did was like basically managed his career and helped him with his sobriety. Because there was a period of time where he was sober and then he would kind of fall back into it, but he was like really tried to just stay as sober as possible. Apparently Ozzy had 6 children from 2 different marriages. And he's been very open about his lifelong battles with addiction, mental health, and Parkinson's disease, and he was diagnosed in 2019 with that. So I've watched interviews with him, and he's, you know, it speaks very, very openly about that. And I think that's good, not to try to hide this or be like, oh, I'm strong enough to deal with this. Like, no, I mean, it's okay to not be strong. You know, it's okay to just be open, especially with like the public. You know, it's hard to share information with the public, but if you're just honest, you know, people look at it like a different way. So his legacy, definitely he is one of the founding fathers of heavy metal. He paved the way, along with Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. And other acts like, you know, like Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Foghat, Blue Cheer, Motorhead, like, you know, everything just coalesced to create what heavy metal is now. And it's so different than what it was. I mean, a lot of it now, there's a ton of those really, really heavy breakdowns and like screams and all this stuff. It's just evolved. And it will keep evolving. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Black Sabbath in 2006. And he was the winner of several Grammy Awards and a Global Icon Award at the MTV Europe Music Awards. I think all in all, you know, he will be surely missed by millions and millions and millions of people. And I think he has, like, you know, passed the torch onto the next generation. I'm excited to see what the future holds for hard rock and heavy metal. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And yeah, just go bump some Sabbath, man. You know, just go. I'm definitely going to listen to some after this. I've been listening to Sabbath ever since the Back to the Beginning show. Really inspired, you know. I think like the past like month, I took a break from making episodes because of just, you know, life stuff that was going on. But to see that and to see his final performance with Black Sabbath, all 4 original members, for that they're all still alive, you know, besides Ozzy, you know, and for him to pass away like 2 weeks later, you know, it was very, very poetic. He even joked that he was going to die like while he was performing, which, you know, very, very well he could have, you know, but he stuck it out and he wanted to say one last goodbye. And when they played Paranoid as the final song, it was like, this is the final song. Like, this is it. It's like, man, everything comes to an end, but is it the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? Life goes on, and wherever Ozzy is now, his spirit, his soul, you know, I hope that he finds peace, you know, because deep down, I can tell he was a good person, I think, you know, and his legacy will live on. So, guys, thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.